So we're getting started here. Welcome to the Museum of Glass. Today it's going to be our resident team of glassblowers. We have a team of 5 people who work here on a regular basis. Leading the team today will be Sarah Gilbert. Sarah is the woman in the gold shirt on the left side of the studio. Assisting her will be Nick Davis in the black shirt, and Zoe and Ben will probably be out here shortly. The vases, we're going to be making vases similar to what you see here drawn on the floor. They're going to be cylindrical vases. They're going to have a strong color at the top, and it's going to fade to clear glass at the bottom. We're also going to dip the interior bubble in baking soda and make it bubbly. So we'll have the bubbly texture, we'll have the color fading from top to bottom. All the glass that's in our furnaces is clear. We buy colored glass separately. We buy it in the form of these bars. We buy it like an artist buys paint: red, yellow, pink, purple, blue. We blow a bubble of clear glass from our furnace. We heat up a chunk of colored glass, and then we melt the colored glass over the clear glass. So that's what they're doing there on the left. Sarah heated up a chunk of colored glass and dropped a little blob on Nick's bubble. He'll heat that up, and then he'll smush it until it entirely coats that initial bubble. So it's really only going to be like a little lining of color. But by the time it's blown out, it'll look like it's made from colored glass. So Nick, in the black shirt, shaping up that bubble, making it nice and even. He'll sit down at the workbench and let it cool a little bit, stiffen, and then we'll coat it with more clear molten glass. To Nick's right, where you see the square hole in the steel wall and the door closed, that's our glass furnace. Behind that door, there's a big ceramic tank, and in that ceramic tank is 1,000 pounds of molten glass. Can we put up the glass furnace diagram? So if you look on the big screen, you'll see a little diagram. That's what our furnace looks like inside. We keep the molten glass at 2,100 degrees, and at that temperature, the glass has the consistency of honey. So if you can imagine a giant crock pot full of honey, that's what our glass furnace is like. When we want to get it out to make stuff, we take one of those steel pipes and we dip it into the molten glass like you dip one of these into a big jar of honey. We dip it in, twirl it around, a little ball of molten glass sticks to the end of the pipe. The pipe is hollow, so when we blow, the ball of glass blows up like a balloon. Does anybody have any questions? Nope, it's all clear. We buy the colored glass separately, and then we just melt the layer of whatever color we want it to be. The glass, when he gets it fresh out of the oven, it's going to look orange. That orange color that you're seeing is the glow from the heat. As it cools, you'll see more of the natural color. So he's dipping it in, twirling it around, and it comes out with a fresh coating of hot molten glass. So Nick's going to blow it out a little bit. Once again, we'll round it out. Make it nice and even. Let it cool a bit. And then we'll coat it with more clear molten glass. You guys have any questions? So Nick is going to start our bubble over on the bench on the left. When we have all the glass we need, then he'll bring it over to Sarah, and she'll blow it up to its full size and shape. You want this glass to be bubbly. You want to make bubbles on purpose. So you see there's a 5-gallon bucket on the floor. That's filled with a solution of baking soda and water. We'll dip the bubble just very quickly into that solution. The water will evaporate and leave a coating of baking soda on the surface of the glass. We'll dip that back into our big tank of molten glass. The baking soda will bubble up and give us bubbly looking glass. If you look at Nick's bubble right now, it's smooth and shiny, but there's no bubbly texture. So here he goes, just a quick stab into the baking soda and water. and then into our big tank of molten glass. The tool that Nick is using to shape the glass, this he switched. Now he's using the newspaper. It's just a pad of folded up regular ordinary newspaper soaked in water. As long as the newspaper is wet, the paper doesn't burn too much, and it doesn't leave any marks as he shapes the glass. Do you guys have any questions? It's newspaper. Ordinary newspaper, just folded up into a big pad and soaked in water. Every once in a while, these pipes get hot. When they do, we take them over to the left, where you see Nick now on the far left. We have a device called a pipe cooler. We just lay this pipe in the metal trough, spray water on it, that cools it down, makes it easier to hold. He's going to drip off some of the excess glass into that big metal can. We'll save that glass, and that'll eventually go back in the furnace. Now Sarah's taken over. Sarah's going to blow that up to its full size and shape. So that glass bubble now is hollow, but the walls are quite thick. We're going to blow it up like a balloon and shape it into a cylinder. When he points the glass down at an angle like that, the glass is soft, will actually stretch under its own weight. So it makes the bubble longer. We just usually start them on that bench and finish in the center so people can see. No. They're just separate workstations. If we were making a lot of things, as she finishes this, we'd be starting the next one on that bench. We're not in a big hurry today, so. So now Sarah's going to squeeze the glass with those metal tongs. Those metal tongs are called the jacks. And she's going to make a sharp crease in the glass. That sharp crease will be the place where we can break it from the metal pipe once we're done shaping. So the tool is called the jacks, and when we make that sharp notch, that's called jacking it down. There is no formal system for glass making, so it's not like being a lawyer or a doctor where you have 2 years of this and 3 years of that and then a test. It's much more like learning to play piano. So it's just, the longer you do it, hopefully the better you get at it. Sarah's been working glass for about 18 years. Letting the glass stretch under its own weight, making that bubble longer. We're going to roll it on what we call the newspaper marver. It's just a flat piece of plywood covered with several layers of wet newspaper. And we can make the sides of the vase straight without leaving any marks. Can we play our pony video? This is our new toy. So if you look up on the big screen, you'll see Nick, You're standing there, pinching a pony. So they're going to flatten the bottom of the vase. Zoe, standing up, is holding a wooden paddle against the bottom of the vase as Sarah turns it. And Sarah's using the metal tongs, the jacks, against the side to keep the side straight as we flatten the bottom. Ma'am, would you like to win a piece of glass to take home with you? Okay, here's the deal. You tell me a subject that you like in school. I ask you a question. You get the question right, you get a piece of glass. Does that sound fair? Music, and what grade are you in? Third grade, and do you play an instrument? What? Piano, how long have you been playing? This year? Okay. Well, on a piano, there's white keys and there's black keys. What kind of notes do you play with the black keys? You have the white keys and the black keys on the piano, right? What kind of notes do the black keys play? They have two names. If it's a little lower, they call it one thing. If it's a little higher, they call it something else. There's E and F and G, and then if you hit the black key, what is it? Oh, no, no, no. You've only had one lesson? Great. Okay, then. Okay, we'll ask you a different question. We're going to ask you a different question. Okay. Do you want another music question? Okay. Can you name the notes on a scale? The what? Yeah. It's not in that order, but I'll give you that. Got the right letters, but not the right order. So now Sarah's going to work on the top of the vase. So originally, the pipe was here where my foot is. Now we're holding it from the bottom, and we're going to open up the top of the vase. Can we put up the Punty diagram? So if you look up on the big screen, we stick a second rod on the bottom, then we break it off the first one, and that's where we are now, where it's held from the bottom. So the glass at the very top has a tendency to be thick. So the next thing we're going to do is stretch out that glass at the very top, and we're going to cut it off. So Nick is heating up the glass, and he's concentrating the heat on the very top of the vase. So when it comes out, the top will be kind of glowing a little bit because it'll be hotter than the rest. And Sarah will start to stretch it. Sarah is the woman in the gold shirt. Nick is the guy standing up. And Zoe has the denim shorts and the paddle in her hand. Sarah's going to flare the very top. Squeeze it a little bit. And that's going to give her a little flange at the top. And she's going to use that flange as a little handle to stretch the glass at the top. So she's pulling outward with her arm and stretching it out. Don't worry if that little flange looks funky, we're going to cut it off. So now Sarah's going to widen that opening. She uses the jacks, those steel tongs, and presses against the inside of the opening and widens it out. Mostly they're looking at how the glass moves. As it gets softer and softer, it kind of flops around more as you turn it. You really can't see the color when it's all inside there. Well, what you see now is a combination of the color of the glass and the glow from the heat. That orange color that you're seeing right at the very tip, that's basically the glass glowing. It's like when you look in a toaster. When the wires are hot, they glow orange. When they cool off, they return to their original color. So Sarah wasn't happy with the amount that she cut off the first time, so we're repeating that operation and cutting off some more. Any questions? Okay. So as Sarah widens the opening, her assistant holds a wooden paddle across the front to keep it straight. She's holding two paddles. One she's straightening the top with, the other one she's using to shield Sarah's arm from the heat. The heat that comes off the glass is radiant heat, like an outdoor heater. It heats the first thing it strikes. So if you put the paddle between the arm and the glass, the paddle gets hot, the arm doesn't. Zoe's holding one paddle across the front, the other one in front of Sarah's hand. We're rolling it on the newspaper marver. We're getting pretty close to being done. When we finish each of these objects, we can't just set them down on a table and let them cool on their own. If we did that, they would cool too quickly and unevenly and they would shatter. So we're going to place this object in a special oven where it will be cooled slowly overnight. Each day we heat up one of our ovens to 920 degrees. We place all the objects that we make during the day in that oven, and at night we cool everything down all at once. So you can see the ovens are called the annealing ovens. You can see one that's open on the right. It's an electric oven, just like an electric pottery kiln. We'll be using the one on the left that's hot. And it has a little computerized thermostat. So at the end of the day, when we're finished working, we'll set the cooling cycle and it will slowly, slowly turn the temperature down to room temperature. Put them in all during hot all day. Put all in one at a time as we make them. And then at night, cool everything down. Take 15 minutes, some things take 6 hours. Stages are running about 40 minutes. We do sell some of these. It's mostly a demonstration type thing. It's not a commercial enterprise. This is like a that's called reticello. Do we have the reticello all-in-one drawing? We might have to look for that a little bit. So we start out by making rods like this. These are called cane. And you can see how there's a color in the middle and clear on the outside. Well, when we melt a bunch of them together, the clear parts melt together. Can you find that? No. Clear parts melt together, and then we have evenly spaced stripes. Does that make sense? Hey. So we take those, we lay them out on a ceramic plate, heat them up so they all stick together. Then we roll that into a tube, close the end of the tube. Then we have a striped bubble. We make two of those. One we twist to the right, the other one we twist to the left, and then we blow one inside the other. And let me see if I can call upstairs. Walk away with it. That's it. That's the reticello. Can't trust these. So you got one stripe rod to the left, one of the trot to the right. When they cross, they make a little crisscross stripe, and at each intersection where the two things cross, traps the layer.
So over here on the left side of the floor.
Could we play the pony video? It doesn't show. Do you guys have any questions? Good? Good. Yeah, she'd make another vase, pretty much like the one drawn on the floor. Now she's got all the glass. She has the color fade in there. She's got the little bubbles. Now we're going to blow it up to the full size and shape. So when they point the vase down at an angle like that, the glass is very soft, and they're actually letting it stretch out under its own weight, making the thing longer just by pointing it down at an angle. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a big notch in the glass. We're heating up the glass, making it soft. The oven that we're heating the glass up in is called the glory hole. It's just a big brick barrel with a gas burner in the side. We stick the glass in there for a minute. It gets hot, it gets soft, and then we bring it back to the workbench to shape it. So now Sarah's squeezing the glass with those big metal tongs, the jacks. Her assistant turns it as she squeezes, and it makes a sharp notch in the glass. That notch is the place where we'll be able to break the glass away from the pipe once we're done shaping. Sarah's shaping the glass using a pad of wet newspaper. This folded up newspaper soaked in water. Her assistant is holding a wooden paddle in front of her arm to shield her from the heat. You start out, you see where there's two square holes in the steel wall and the door's closed? Those are our glass furnaces. So behind each of those doors, we have a big ceramic tank, and in that ceramic tank, we have 1,000 pounds of molten glass. We keep that molten glass at 2,100 degrees, and at that temperature, the glass has the consistency of honey. So if you can imagine a giant crock pot full of honey, that's what it's like. When we want to get it out to make stuff, we take one of those steel pipes, those are called blow pipes, and we dip it into the molten glass like you dip one of these into a jar of honey. We dip it in, twirl it around, a little bit of the molten glass sticks to the end of the pipe. The pipe itself is hollow, so when you blow, the ball of glass on the other end blows up like a balloon. Each time we dip it in, only a certain amount sticks. So we blow a little, dip it in, blow a little bubble, let it harden, then we dip it in a second time, or third time, or fourth time. Just keep building up the glass in layers. So Nick, over on the left, he's blowing at the same time that Sarah is shaping it. Sarah's in the gold shirt, Nick in the black shirt. Colors in glass come from different metals dissolved in the glass when you first cook it up. If you take the raw ingredients of glass and you cook it up with cobalt, you get blue. Chromium, you get green. A little bit of gold, you get pink. So you have to do it when you're first making the glass from scratch. What we do here is we buy colored glass from another company. They've cooked it up, and then we melt the colored glass onto our glass. So we get it like this, and we want to make something orange. We'll blow a bubble of clear glass from our furnace, cut off a little chunk of orange, heat it up, and then we melt a layer of orange glass over our clear glass. So right now, the steel pipe is connected here at the top of the vase. We're going to get another steel rod called a punty. We're going to stick it on the bottom, and then we're going to break the pipe off here. It'll be held from the bottom, and then we can shape the top. So here comes Nick in the black shirt with the punty. We stick it on the bottom, and that second steel rod, the punty, is going to act as a temporary handle to hold the vase from the bottom while we shape the top. When Sarah feels that that bond is strong enough, she'll take a pair of tweezers, dip them in water, drip a little water where she wants the glass to break, and then a sharp tap, and off it comes. So the cold water is dripped on the hot glass, it starts a little crack, we tap on the pipe, the thing comes off. Does anybody have any questions? So where we just broke the glass away from the pipe at the very top. The glass is always a little bit thick. So the next thing we're going to do is stretch that out and trim some of that off. So Sarah's heating up the glass, and she's sort of concentrating the heat at the very top. So she's not sticking it all the way into the big oven. She's just sticking in a little so that the top gets extra hot and soft. If you look at the vase now, you'll see the front end is glowing orange. That means it's extra hot and extra soft. So Sarah's pulling outward with her arm. You can see the top getting stretched out. She feels that she's stretched it enough. She'll make another notch, and then we'll break that little flower part off. Nick is letting that vase stretch out, become a little bit longer. So the top of the vase is a little bit narrow. So we're going to blow some air into the front end. We're going to use a tool called the Soffietto. Zoe, in denim shorts, has a Soffietto. She'll stick that cone in the opening and blow through the central tube, and that will inflate the glass and make the front end a little bit fuller. Does anybody have any questions? About 40 minutes. Okay. We start out in our furnace. You see where the square holes in the wall and doors close? Behind that door is a big tank of clear molten glass. The molten glass in the tank is like honey. It's like a big jar of honey. So we take our steel pipe and we dip it into the molten glass like you dip one of these into a jar of honey. We dip it in, twirl it around. A little ball of glass coats the end of the pipe. Then we blow. Ball of glass blows up a little bit. We let that harden. And we dip it in again a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time. And we just keep building up the glass in layers. Once we get all the glass we need, then we blow it up like a balloon. We put the color on right after we blow the first bubble. We blow a little bubble, let it harden, and we heat up a chunk of colored glass, and then we melt the layer of the colored glass over that starting bubble. Then we'll dip it in more clear glass, Just keep, and then we'll blow it up, and that layer will kind of line the glass with color. Yeah, you can melt on 3 colors, 2 colors, whatever we want. As we finish each of these vases, they have to be cooled off slowly. So we're going to take it off the metal rod. We're going to place it in a special oven called the annealing oven, that big black oven at the far end of the studio, and we'll cool it down slowly overnight. We keep that big black oven at 920 degrees. We place all the objects we make during the day in there, and then at night we cool everything down all at once. So Zoe in the green jacket has our finished vase. We'll place it in the annealing oven. So we have all the objects we've made today in there, and then at night we'll start the cooling process. So, uh, first, we've blown a little bubble, and Nick has a little piece of colored glass. We're going to melt a little layer of the colored glass over the clear glass, and then we're going to let that harden, and then we'll dip it back into our big tank of molten glass. So each time we dip it in, it adds another layer, and we just repeat that process until we have enough glass to make whatever we're making. So right now they're just coating it with the colored glass. So Zoe has the colored glass. We put a little blob on the end, and then Nick will heat that up again and then mush it back until it coats the initial bubble. The oven, the big round oven, is 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. So a little more than 6 times what it takes to cook a turkey. No, I mean, sometimes we turn it up, sometimes we turn it down. It's just approximate. We don't really deal with any temperatures that are terribly precise here. It's all sort of ballparky. Different glasses are melt at different temperatures. Some processes, we want the thing really hot and fluid, so we turn the heat up. Some things we just want it sort of hot, so we turn the thing down. The horses are a kind of a standard trick, glass blower's trick. It takes a little practice to learn how to do them, but they're not usually difficult. We have a little video of them making the horses. You want to see that? We play the, there it is. That all has to be done in one shot before the glass hardens. You may recognize the guy doing it. That's Nick. He's the guy in the video, as well as the guy working right now. You're seeing it in real time. That's how long it takes. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. So we're making a vase similar to the one that's drawn here on the floor. We've coated it with colored glass, and we've blown it in such a way that the color fades from strong color to clear. And we dip the initial bubble in baking soda to make the bubbly texture. So we're, a little more than 4/5 of the way done, I would say. The glass is being held from underneath here, and we're going to shape the top. Nope, flowers are just for fun. Just to let you know it's a vase. What? The main material? If you see that steel wall, you see where there's square holes and the doors closed? Those are the glass furnaces. So there's 2 of them, one on each side of the studio. If you look up on the big screen, you'll see a diagram. That's what they look like inside. So inside each of those is a big ceramic tank which holds approximately 1,000 pounds of molten glass. So we keep that glass at 2,100 degrees. And at that temperature, the glass is like honey. So it's like dipping into a big jar of honey. So Sarah's going to knock off that little flange. So that when we knock that off, it leaves a little hole. We'll heat that up, make it soft, and spread that out. We'll have the opening at the top of our vase. When he points it down like that, he's letting the glass is soft, he's letting it stretch under its own weight. We're going to blow some air into the top and just sort of fill that top out, make it fuller. So we're going to open it up, widen the opening. Sarah's going to roll it on some sheets of wet newspaper. That allows us to straighten those sides without leaving any marks on the glass. So we're pretty much done here. We're going to take the vase off the metal rod and place it in an oven called the annealing oven where it'll be cooled very slowly overnight. If we just put it on a table, let it cool on its own, it would break. One of the glass blowers is put on some big yellow gloves. The gloves are made out of Kevlar. Kevlar is a fire-resistant insulating material. It'll allow her to hold the vase, which will be 1,000 degrees, for just a short time till we get it to the oven. A few drops of water on the joint between the vase and the metal rod, a little tap, off it comes. And into the oven to cool. No rest for the wicked. So Nick and Sarah are starting the next one. So Nick is dipping into our big tank of molten glass, coating the end of his pipe with a little ball of molten glass, and then he's going to blow the initial bubble, the starting bubble. He'll shape that glass into a little sort of cylinder shape, and then he's going to blow some air into the tube and close it up with his thumb. The heat from the glass itself will expand the air and blow the first bubble automatically. So one little puff, if you keep your eye on the glass, you'll see the little bubble pop out. That's how we start almost every hollow object that we make. Zoe, in the denim shorts, is heating up a chunk of colored glass. We're going to melt a layer of colored glass over that initial bubble. This is what we call a color overlay. So we just drop a little dollop of the colored glass on top. We'll heat that up again, and then we'll smooth that colored glass over the initial bubble till it coats it completely. So Nick, in the black shirt, has applied the color in a special way. It's called a blow-through. And so the color is not going to go uniformly through the vase. It's going to fade to clear at the bottom. So if you look up on the big screen, you'll see how the color was applied. We coated the original bubble with color. It made a kind of a wide, flat bubble. And then we dipped it in more clear glass. And so push the clear glass out towards the end. When we blow the bubble, the colored bubble blows up into the mass of clear, and it causes the color to fade from the dark color to clear. So this is called a blow-through. This is how we make the color fade from one color to another. Thanks. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the glass bubbly. Over here, we have a little 5-gallon bucket with a solution of baking soda and water. Nick is going to dip the glass into this baking soda and water. The water will evaporate and leave a little coating of baking soda on the surface of that bubble. We'll then dip that back into our big tank of molten glass, and the baking soda will bubble up and give us our bubbly look. You guys have any questions? Good. Oh, relax. Enjoy yourselves. So here he goes. He dips in the baking soda and water, just a quick dip. And then into the molten glass. The baking soda gases up, and we get our coating of random bubbles. Sarah's pushing the glass out toward the end, so we have a nice thick bottom. So we've collected a little extra thick section of clear glass at the base. So Nick, the man in the black shirt, is blowing, and he's inflating the glass while Sarah shapes it. The gray pad in Sarah's hand is just folded up newspaper soaked in water. There's two ways in which we heat up the glass. Sometimes we heat it up in the big round oven, the glory hole. Sometimes we heat it up with a torch. When we use the torch, like Sarah's doing now, It allows us to focus the heat in a particular place. So we're just going to get the next part that she wants to shape extra hot and therefore extra soft. Zoe is holding a wooden paddle across the bottom. Sarah's holding her jacks, those metal tongs, along the side to make it straight. And so now we're getting ready to transfer the glass from the rod it was originally blown on to a second steel rod called the punty, P-U-N-T-Y. Take care. Thanks for coming in.